Hello there. I'm Larry Jackson. I'm the writer, director, and producer of Shades Connected Interactive, also known as Overcoming American Ethnic Implicit Bias, and in some circles, Overcoming American Racial Implicit Bias. This is a video that will have several segments in it that will be dealing with my experiences over some 50, 60, 70 years dealing with racial implicit bias. These experiences surround themselves with what we call disrespect, and the elements of disrespect are content of speech, tone of voice, and gestures. And you will see these elements popping out in the segments that follow this segment and how I dealt with them. So the theme here is overcoming American implicit ethnic and racial biases. And at the conclusion, I'll have workable solutions for you to employ once you understand the content of this video. So with that, we will proceed to the next segment. On the street at all because of how early it was. And it was a Sunday morning. In any event, I was in the number 2 lane, the lane that was second to the lane on the right next to the curb. And we were stopped at a red light. I was about maybe 20 feet from the limit line. And I decided that I was going to make a right turn to go to another stop before we headed home. I think maybe to get donuts or something. And my boys that were in the car with me were very close to approaching driving age. And so as a result, of course, they're going to critique Dad in terms of his driving, my driving. So, so I'm at this intersection and I decide I'm going to make a right turn. I put my right signal on and I move over into the right lane. And they're, oh, Dad, you shouldn't do that. You can't do that. That's illegal, they say. That's illegal. And I said, what are you talking about? I just put my signal on and moved over to the right lane, and I made my right turn. Well, as soon as I made my right turn, there's a black and white sheriff's car, deputy car behind me. And they said, oh, we told you, we told you. So I pulled over. And I'm looking in my rearview mirror, and in this car is 4 deputies. And the driving deputy gets out, and he walks up to the car. I roll down the window, I got my driver's license out, and I'm ready to tell him my version of why I made this right turn. And he says to me, before you start arguing, I'm not going to give you a ticket. So I make a mental reservation. Well, I haven't got nothing to say then if you're not going to give me a ticket. And so he says to me, but you do realize that you cannot make a right turn from the middle lane. And I says, think to myself, that's not what I did. But yeah, I said, yes, that's right, I do know that. And he says, okay, that's all I wanted to know. And we just bid each other have a nice day, and he went on about his business. And I'm sure that the rest of the day, probably the 4 deputies in that car talked about what I did. He wanted to know, why did you pull over? Why did you pull over? And I told him, I said, well, my boys were critiquing my driving, and they told me that I was doing something wrong, and I told them I wasn't. When I saw you behind me, I just decided I'd pull over and we would deal with it. And so he went on about his business, kind of shaking his head like, I've never seen that before. And of course, during the rest of the day, the boys had to tell the rest of the family what my driving experience was. So that was an incident where in dealing with the police, of course, you want to pass what is called the attitude test. And what I have told my boys and girls, that when you're pulled over by the police, know your rights, but be respectful, be courteous, and 9 times out of 10 they'll be courteous back to you. You will have the incident where there is somebody that's having a bad day, and they might not be as courteous as you want them to be, but then consider uh, all the things that they go through during their day. I had another incident, which is kind of a funny one. During my early days in my practice, one of the things I did was tax returns, and I had a number of deputies for clients, and I also had an LAPD training officer for clients. Anyway, I'm working on the taxes, and during the middle of the day, and this deputy comes running in. He says, "You got my taxes ready? You got my taxes ready?" And you know, sometimes they live from paycheck to paycheck. And I said, "Well, they're not quite ready yet, but they will be ready, within about an hour." And he says, "Well, I gotta go. I gotta go. We got a drug bust. We got a drug bust to do." And I said, "Well, why do you have to hurry? There'll be 14 other guys there." And he goes, "Well, they can't do anything till I get there." So I said, "Well, you come back when you finish your drug bust, and we'll have your taxes for you." So that's what I have in this segment. There are a couple of other segments that I will be talking about that did not go quite as well, and you'll see that later on in this presentation. So this segment is on overcharge or false charge of an incident. This is an incident where one of my sons comes home from high school, going to a Catholic high school, and reveals that he was sent to the office for some sort of an incident. When I questioned him about this incident, what it was about, and so forth, he said he was sent to the office for sexual harassment. I go, "Oh my goodness!" Now this is way back. This is before I was teaching religious education in Santa Monica. So this was maybe 10 or 15 years before that. And we delve deeper into this subject, why he was sent to the office for sexual harassment. And he said that he and another boy were fighting over a seat, who was going to get this seat first. And he called this boy a faggot. And the teacher sent him to the office for sexual harassment. And he went to the office. This tells you, how long ago this was. This was during the first O.J. Simpson trial. And in the office at that time, the man in the office was the head PE teacher. And my son never got into trouble all through his school career. And so he was surprised. "What are you doing in here?" Well, the teacher says, What are you doing in here?" He says, "I got sent to the office." He said, "What for?" He said, "For sexual harassment." He goes, "What?" He said, "Well, what did you do?" He said, "Well, we were fighting over this seat, who was going to get it first, and I called this boy a fag." And he goes, "Oh, sit down." He says, "Sit down, let's just watch OJ." So the teacher just kind of blew it off. But when I heard about it, I counseled him to say that this is something that, of course, you should not say. I know that you high school kids, you say this kind of thing all the time. You tease each other, or you call each other names that are inappropriate. But in my day, we did this outside the earshot of adults. One of the words we used to say was bitchin'. And if we said that in front of an adult, they would assume that we said the other word, and what it would break loose. And so, I told him that, of course, this boy has a right to be whatever he chooses to be, and he shouldn't be harassed or shouldn't be teased for whatever he is or is not. And as a matter of fact, you don't know what he was. So he took that with a grain of salt, and that was the end of that particular incident. This concludes the stories in this selection. You should now include your name and email address on your group leader's pledge list so that you get notification when we reach 10,000 pledges, our goal. Then you may make your $5 commitment to be included in a movement that will deal with making the appropriate moral changes. We will begin with national awareness to bring back the appropriate moral fiber relative to how people from different racial groups treat other people from different groups. We will continue with the online viewing of Overcoming American Ethnic Implicit Bias via your cell phone or computer starting the weekend of February 2nd, 2018. If you wish, you may want to view any of the other selections at your leisure. Thank you for watching and welcome to AARON, the all-inclusive, racially enthusiastic network.